We're going to talk about what has happened in Ukraine on this day of the Russian invasion. We'll examine the actions and the strategies, both military and political. Now, if this is your first time watching, my name is Darren Gertis. I'm a professor who's built multiple leadership programs at Charleston Southern University. So we'll also view these events through the lens of leadership. And I also wrote a book about Zelensky called I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride, and you can find it on Amazon. Gained more ground in Severodonetsk. Uh, and it's really a tricky thing. It keeps going back and forth. And for the Ukrainians, they have to determine, are we going to hold this ground or are we going to fall back? If we're going to hold this ground, we got to be committed to this fight and make sure that we can stay. If we're going to fall back, we got to make sure that our escape across the river is, like some of the bridges have been blown. We got to make sure that we have that escape access still. Pop up a bridge real quick and get people across. Lysychansk is right across the river. It's on high ground, so it's actually a great place to go. The If they need to retreat, they can do that. However, if they do that, they have one problem if they do this, and then one problem if they do this. If they stay, they risk encirclement. They're depleted, but so are the Russians. I mean, the Russians are just as tired as they are. Um, but if they retreat, they're on higher ground across a river. It's safer, but then they have to retake that land, and it's going to be bloodier to retake it later on. So they really have a tough decision ahead of them. The local military governor, Serhiy Haidai, said, quote, strategically, the city of Severodonetsk is not of great importance, but politically, Severodonetsk is a regional center. Its liberation will lift our morale substantially and demoralize the Russians. As Zelensky also said, our quote, our heroes are not giving up positions in Severodonetsk. Fierce urban combat continues in this city. So the Russians have controlled it, not controlled it, controlled it again. I mean, it's going back and forth. But of Luhansk, the Russians controlled only a small sliver of Luhansk early on. Right now, they control 97% of it, and controlling Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, and then a little bit outside Lysychansk would give them 100%, and that would be a huge moral victory for the Russians that the Ukrainians wish to deny them. Okay, let's shift our attention to Kherson. In Kherson, the schools are now requiring the teachers use a Russian-approved curriculum, and that's just another step toward Russification. And once they do that, they'll start doing things like issuing passports and really making these people essentially Russian, or preparing them to be a puppet Russian state. The advisor to the mayor of Mariupol has warned about a outbreak of cholera. Now, cholera is not something that the modern world sees, but improper sanitation can lead to cholera. And so improper sanitation leads to contaminated drinking water, which then spreads through the contaminated drinking water to whoever drinks it, and they get dehydration and vomiting and diarrhea. It's really awful. So that's what's going on in Mariupol because the city's been destroyed. Many cities have been destroyed because the Russian method of war has been just to destroy the city and take the ground rather than to target military targets. Okay, finally, Zelensky's speech today. He talked about. No, I thought this was like odd but interesting. He talked about the heating season. At this time, he says we'll not. Well, so he's planning. He's working with a committee of people to talk about like what's heating going to be like in the winter, because we got to plan for that one way or another. Whether we have won or whether the Russians are still here, we still need to be warm. And so he's thinking ahead, and like he didn't say it the way I just said it, like whether they're still here. He's hoping that they're not going to be here. He wasn't saying that, but he is proactively thinking about, like, we've got to keep people from freezing to death in the winter, and I applaud him for that. He said at this time we will not be selling our gas and coal abroad. That's probably a smart thing. They need to be able to conserve it. They are going to try to increase their electricity export capabilities, which is also a smart thing to the degree that they can do it. Talked about EU member status, like they've done everything that they can. Hopefully, they'll hear something in June. And then he also talked about the absolute, quote, absolutely heroic defense of Donbas that continues. The hottest spots are the same. First of all, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, Popasna. It is absolutely felt that the occupiers did not believe that the resistance of our military would be so strong. And now they're trying to hold are trying to attract additional resources to Donbas direction. Yeah, that's a very accurate analysis. That's what's going on. And he concluded with this last little bit, which I thought was interesting because he's been promising, like he's been saying the same things, like, look, we need more weapons, we need sanctions, we need money to finance things, and we will fight and we will do it all. And then we're going to push the Russians off our land, and we're going to hold um, criminal liability or criminal, we're going to hold them to this. So he said, quote, another piece of news that can be reported now next week, a special book of torturers is planned to be launched. Now, book of torturers, well, this is for war crimes, right? And an information system that can collects confirmed data on war criminals and criminals from the Russian army. Like he's serious about going through and prosecuting them, and good on him, because to the degree that he gets this going, it'll make Russians, to the degree they hear about this, a little less antsy to be implementing war crimes. Okay, that's it. This is the end of what we know on day 104. Tell me what you think. Am I covering the right things? I'm trying to cover a broad mix of political, military, and economic issues so that you have a well-formed understanding of what's going on in Ukraine.
Hey, if this video was helpful, hit like to help others find it in YouTube's algorithm. Subscribe so that you can stay informed. And one more thing, if you are moved to contribute to the humanitarian aid for Ukraine, I have a link below for Samaritan's Purse. If you want to give, be sure to give only to reputable organizations. There's a lot of scammers out there. Thanks for your time.